Welcome back to the deep dive. This is where we cut through the noise to get you to the absolute core of what you need to know. Today, we're plunging into the fascinating world of competitive swimming. I mean, it's a realm where every single millisecond counts, and that quest for speed, for power, it's just relentless. I remember in my own early swimming days thinking more laps equals faster times, right? And then hitting the wall at 25 meters completely spent. Clearly, there's more to it than just pool time. And for anyone who's ever pushed themselves in the water, or really any sport, you probably wondered, could a few focus changes to your dryland training actually shave those precious seconds off your sprint times? It's a potential game changer for athletes, and frankly, it's just a super interesting challenge of human performance. Okay, let's unpack this.
Indeed. And we're diving deep, really deep into the science behind optimizing swimming performance today. We're specifically focusing on how different dryland strength training methods impact sprint speeds. Our source for this exploration is quite a powerful new study. It's titled Comparing the Effects of Maximal Strength Training, Plyometric Training, and Muscular Endurance Training on Swimming-Specific Performance Measures, a randomized parallel-controlled study in young swimmers.
Okay, yeah, that's a bit of a mouthful, but don't worry, we're going to break it all down for you. This insightful research, led by LiuXi and their team that includes BingHong Gao, Chen, Zhou, JiuShu Zhou, and Tang was published just this year, 2025. It's in the prestigious Journal of Sports Science and Medicine, volume 24, pages 128 to 121. And for anyone wanting to really dive into the full academic details, you'll find the complete citation in our show notes. Our mission today is basically to distill the key findings, helping you understand which dryland methods truly make a difference for sprint swimmers and, crucially, why. All presented with hopefully scientific clarity, but in an accessible tone.
Absolutely. Let's begin by setting the stage for what makes sprint swimming, especially something like the 50-meter freestyle, such an incredibly demanding event. It's not merely about getting from A to B in the pool. Success absolutely hinges on a highly developed anaerobic system, exceptional muscular power, and of course, very precise stroke technique. It's an all-out effort, really, from start to finish.
Yeah, when you visualize a 50-meter sprint, it's over in a flash, isn't it? Often under 25 seconds for elite swimmers. And success truly hinges on a few critical factors: an explosive start off the blocks, incredibly rapid and powerful strokes, superior lower body, upper body, and core muscle power, and the ability to, optimize propulsion while minimizing drag through the water. It makes you wonder then how dryland training specifically translates into that kind of raw speed in the water.
Precisely. Beyond the countless hours spent in the pool, perfecting technique and building that swim-specific endurance. A targeted strength and conditioning program outside the water isn't just beneficial, it's truly crucial for maximizing sprint performance. It's about building the foundational raw power that translates directly into faster times.
Okay, so this brings us neatly to the core question of the study we're digging into today. Which dryland training method is it? Maximal strength training, MST, or plyometric training, PT, or maybe muscular endurance training, MEP? Which one is most effective for improving sprint swimming performance? What was the thinking going into this research? What did they expect to find?
Well, the researchers had a pretty clear expectation, a hypothesis. They thought that both MST and PT, because they focus so much on power and force production, they expected them to significantly outperform MET, specifically in enhancing starting performance and improving both the 25-meter and the 50-meter freestyle times. They were looking for a distinct, measurable advantage there.
Right, so for our listeners to really grasp the findings, maybe let's quickly clarify what each of these training methods actually involves, at least in the context of this study.
Good idea. So maximal strength training, MST, this focuses on increasing the peak force a muscle group can generate. Think classic powerlifting style. Low repetition, high resistance exercises, usually in the range of, say, 80 to 95% of an athlete's one repetition maximum, or 1 RM. It's about building that raw foundational strength.
Okay, heavy lifting. And then there's plyometric training, or PT. That sounds a bit different.
It is. PT involves explosive movements that utilize what's called a stretch shortening cycle, like jumping, bounding, throwing, often with relatively low resistance. Think of it like stretching a rubber band quickly and letting it snap back. A quick stretch followed immediately by a powerful contraction generates more force than just contracting from a static start. The goal here is improving neuromuscular efficiency, basically, how quickly and powerfully your muscles can react and generate force.
Got it. Explosive reaction. And the third one, muscular endurance training, MEMT.
Right, so in this study, MED served as the control group. It consists of exercises using free weights or maybe just light loads, but performed many times. The focus is on the ability to sustain efforts over a longer duration, rather than generating maximal or explosive power. It's really about fatigue resistance.
Okay, distinctions made. So how did they actually set up the study to compare these? Walk us through the methodology.
Right. The design was a randomized, parallel-controlled study. It ran for 6 weeks, and the participants did their specific dry land training twice a week. This setup allowed for, proper recovery between these high-intensity sessions while still providing a good, robust training stimulus.
And who were the swimmers involved? Were they beginners, elites?
There were 27 high-level university swimmers, 10 women, 17 men with an average age around 20. They were classified as Tier 2 competitive athletes, which means they were already active in regional-level competitions. So definitely not beginners.
Okay, experienced swimmers then.
Yes, and they had specific criteria, too. A minimum of 5 years swimming experience, they had to maintain at least 90% attendance during the study. And importantly, they needed a minimum of 2 years of prior resistance training experience. So they were used to some form of dry land work already.
Makes sense. So what did the actual training look like for each group?
Okay, so the specific interventions were quite distinct. For the MST group, exercises included classic compound lifts, bench presses, back squats, deadlifts. The intensity progressed over the 6 weeks, starting around 80–85% of their 1RM with 6 to 8 reps, and moving up to 90–95% of 1RM with just 2–4 reps later on. Heavy, powerful movements pushing maximal force.
And the PT group, what were they doing while the MST group lifted heavy?
The PT group had a different kind of intensity, focused on explosive movements. Their program included things like explosive push-ups, medicine ball throws, and various jumping movements like alternating leg jumps, explosive mat jumps, squat jumps. The key here was maximal intent and speed on every single rep, really focusing on that rapid explosive contraction and using that stretch shortening cycle effectively.
Right, speed and pop versus raw force. And the MEAT group, the control.
Their exercises were different again. Things like bodyweight push-ups, standing sleeper support, dumbbell bird raises but with light, 3-kilogram weights, bodyweight squats, and then pull-ups or oblique pulls for the women. And these were performed for more reps, like 4 or 5 sets of 15 repetitions each, at a controlled pace, not explosive.
Okay, 3 very different approaches. And how did they measure if it was working?
They assessed the swimmers at 3 key points. Once before the whole thing started, again mid-intervention at week 3, and then finally post-intervention at week 6. This tracking allowed them to see not just the end result, but the progress and changes over time for each group.
And what were they measuring specifically?
They focused on measures directly relevant to sprint swimming. For starting performance, they looked at start flight distance, basically how far the swimmer traveled horizontally off the block before hitting the water, and also the time it took them to reach the 15-meter mark from the start signal, both crucial for the initial phase of any sprint race.
Makes sense. And in the water.
For swimming performance, they tested a 25-meter freestyle kick only, a 25-meter freestyle stroke only, so isolating upper body, then a full 25-meter freestyle sprint, and the big one, the full 50-meter freestyle sprint. Really comprehensive.
All right, so we've set the stage, met the athletes, understood the game plan. Now the moment we've been waiting for. When the stopwatch finally clicked, what did it actually reveal about these training methods? Because you hinted the differences were pretty clear. So what does this all mean for someone wanting to get faster?
Well, the overall trend was quite striking, actually. Both the maximal strength training, the MST group, and the plyometric training, the PT group. They generally led to significantly better results compared to the muscular endurance training, the MT group, when it came to enhancing sprint freestyle performance. And this wasn't just a tiny edge, it was a substantial difference.
Okay, let's zero in on starting performance first. You said it's arguably the most critical bit in sprints. What did they find there?
Yeah, the findings for starting performance were particularly interesting. Both MST and PT were significantly more effective than MET in improving both start flight distance and the 15-meter start time. But what's truly fascinating here, maybe a bit surprising, is that PT actually showed significant improvement over MET earliest at that mid-evaluation point after just 3 weeks.
Ah, so plyos kicked in faster for the start.
For the start metrics, yes, compared to MET. Now, by the final 6-week assessment, both MST and PT were clearly superior to MET. And interestingly, there was no significant difference observed between MST and PT themselves at that final stage for the start. Both got the job done better than endurance training.
So the core insight here seems to be, for that crucial explosive start, you're either training for raw power with MST or that lightning fast reaction with PT. Endurance training just isn't playing the same game in those first few critical seconds, is it?
Exactly. It really comes down to targeting the specific neurological pathways and muscle fiber types needed for explosive movement. MST recruits those high-threshold motor units for generating raw, maximal force. PT, on the other hand, improves the rate of force development and the efficiency of that stretch-shortening cycle, which leads to faster acceleration off the blocks. MET, with its focus on sustaining effort, it simply doesn't build the rapid power and strength required for an optimal explosive sprint start.
Understood. So it's about translating that power or that explosive reaction directly into the water. Let's move from those critical starts to how these methods impacted the actual in-water mechanics, the kicking and stroking.
Right. For both the 25-meter freestyle kick test and the 25-meter freestyle stroke test, both MST and PT significantly improved performance compared to MET. Again, clear winners over endurance. Now, here's a little nuance. In that mid-evaluation at 3 weeks, PT was significantly better than MST for the 25-meter kick-only test.
Okay, suggesting maybe an early advantage for lower body power from plyos.
Potentially. And conversely, at that same midpoint, MST was better than PT for the 25-meter stroke-only test, maybe indicating quicker upper body strength gains from the heavy lifting.
Interesting.
Yeah, but by the post-intervention stage at 6 weeks, these specific differences between MST and PT for kick and stroke disappeared. They kind of evened out relative to each other, though both remained distinctly superior to MET.
That's a crucial distinction. So after the full 6 weeks, MST and PT were pretty much neck and neck for improving the individual kick and stroke components, both well ahead of just doing endurance work on land. But what's the underlying mechanism here? How do these dry land gains translate so directly to pushing water?
Well, if we connect the dots, basically stronger upper and lower body muscles allow swimmers to apply greater force during both the pull phase of the stroke and the kick. Pretty straightforward, right? This means better stroke efficiency, more distance per stroke, and it helps overcome that hydrodynamic drag more effectively. Allows you to maintain a high stroke frequency without sacrificing power.
Right.
MST boosts overall muscle fiber activation and that raw strength potential. PT enhances that stretch shortening cycle for more powerful, rapid movements in the kick and pull. MET, while good for fighting fatigue later in a longer race perhaps, just isn't designed to develop the kind of sprint-specific propulsion you need against the resistance of water.
Very clear. Okay, let's move on to the combined sprint distances then. The full 25-meter and 50-meter freestyle. This is where it really shows up in a race scenario.
Exactly. Now, in the 25-meter freestyle sprint, a key finding emerged. Only MST showed significantly better performance than MET.
Only MST. What about PT?
Interestingly, PT did not show a significant advantage over MET in that specific 25-meter test.
Okay.
However, for the longer 50-meter freestyle sprint, both MST and PT significantly outperformed MET.
Okay, that definitely raises an important question. Why the difference? Why would plyometric training not show a clear edge over MET in the shorter 25-meter sprint, but did show an edge in the slightly longer 50-meter sprint?
That's a great observation, and it likely speaks to the specific adaptations each training type promotes. MST's focus on raw, explosive strength seems to translate effectively across both short sprint distances. You get consistently more powerful strokes and kicks right from the start.
Makes sense.
For PT, while it excels in rapid force development, its ability to utilize that stretch shortening cycle might become more advantageous or show a more pronounced benefit over slightly longer sprint distances like the 50-meter. Why? Because maybe you need that sustained repeated explosive power across more stroke cycles in a 50. It could be that the initial burst into 25 meters is dominated more by maximal strength, whereas the need for repeated, powerful, efficient movements in a 50-meter sprint leverages PT's specific neuromuscular benefits more effectively over the full distance.
Interesting distinction.
Yeah, and ME, well, it's focused on submaximal efforts, so it simply doesn't generate the rapid force required for optimal performance in either sprint distance.
Got it. And what about the speed of adaptation? Did one method seem to kick in faster than the others, offering quicker benefits maybe?
Yes, that was another interesting finding. MST showed a remarkably rapid impact. It was found to be significantly better than both PT and MET by the 3rd week of training in some measures.
Wow, that quick.
Yeah. Now, while by the full 6 weeks, its overall performance advantage was similar to PT in many respects, this early advantage indicates that MST might offer quicker neuromuscular adaptations for more immediate performance benefits. And that could be a really significant factor for coaches, designing short-term training blocks, maybe leading right up to a key competition.
Right. Quick gains can be crucial sometimes. Now, no study is perfect, and acknowledging limitations is always important for interpreting results accurately and applying them responsibly. What were the key limitations noted in this research?
Yeah, the authors were good about identifying several limitations. Firstly, the intervention period was relatively short, just 6 weeks. That means it might not fully capture the long-term effects or maybe the sustainability of these training methods over a full season or multiple seasons.
Okay, duration. What else?
Secondly, the specific sample size, these Tier 2 university swimmers. While high level, the results might not be broadly generalizable to all competitive levels, like maybe absolute elite Olympians or, conversely, much younger developmental swimmers. And also, it was noted that due to time constraints within the study protocol, the MST program they used didn't actually include a specific pulling exercise, like a weighted pull-up or row.
Ah, and pulling is obviously huge for swimming.
Exactly. So that's a factor to consider when interpreting the MST results fully. It just reminds us, how complex human performance and training adaptation truly is.
Okay, so with those considerations in mind, let's pivot to the practical takeaways. What does this really mean for you, the listener, especially if you're a swimmer or maybe a coach listening in, looking to gain that edge in sprint performance?
I think the practical advice is quite clear based on this evidence. Incorporating maximal strength training, MST, probably around twice a week, seems highly recommended. The study showed visible effects kicking in by as early as week 3, with further enhancements by week 6, particularly in short-distance sprint swimming. So it's a strong contender for getting relatively quick performance gains.
Okay, MST is a strong bet. And what about plyometrics? How does PT fit into the practical picture?
Plyometric training, PT, is also clearly valuable. It showed significant improvements too, particularly in some specific shorter tests, and crucially, in the full 50-meter freestyle. Its effectiveness, however, seems maybe a little more context-dependent than MST, based on that 25-meter versus 50-meter finding. It suggests coaches should carefully consider the specific race distances and potentially the individual athlete's strengths or needs when integrating PT. But for developing that explosive repeated power, PT is definitely key.
So it sounds like it's not necessarily an either, but maybe more about strategic integration depending on the goals and the timing, right?
Yeah,
How should coaches navigate that?
exactly. It's not a one-size-fits-all prescription. Coaches really need to think strategically about integrating these methods, MST and PT, into a well-planned training cycle. They need to adjust the emphasis according to the athlete's specific goals, their weaknesses, and the particular periodization phase of their season. And crucially, something we always need to stress is managing the overall training load carefully. Both MST and PT are demanding. You have to integrate them properly to avoid negative impacts on their daily water-based training and, importantly, their overall recovery. The goal is enhancement, not breakdown.
Absolutely critical point. So, wrapping up the findings, the evidence seems compelling for sprint swimmers, ditching dryland training that only focuses on muscular endurance and instead targeting either maximal strength training or plyometric training looks like a real game changer. MST seems to offer potentially faster gains, especially beneficial in shorter time frames, while both methods contribute powerfully to overall sprint performance, albeit with some interesting nuances across different distances and specific drills like starts, kicks, and strokes.
Right. And maybe a final thought for you, the listener, as you consider these findings. Think about how these principles, targeted strength, targeted power, understanding the specific nuances of different training types, could apply beyond swimming. Think about other areas of athletic performance or even just your own fitness journey. So knowing that MST brings that immediate raw power, while PT might excel at rapid reactive force, especially when repeated. How does that shift your thinking about planning your training? Whether it's for a specific race distance in swimming, or maybe for developing explosive power in a completely different sport, or even just achieving your own fitness goals. Are you truly aligning your training with the specific qualities you want to enhance?
That's a great question to leave everyone with. Really makes you think about the why behind the what in training. And for a full understanding of the methodology, the specific numbers, and all the details, we absolutely encourage you to read the complete article. Again, it's comparing the effects of maximal strength training, plyometric training, and muscular endurance training on swimming-specific performance measures by Yang, Gao, Chen, Zhou, and Tang, published in the Journal of Sports Science and Medicine. If you found this deep dive insightful, please make sure to follow our channel and maybe turn on notifications so you don't miss our next exploration into making you more